Hi, this is Abhishek Sengupta. Welcome back. Now, we are here with another episode of Knowledge Talks. Now, in this episode of Knowledge Talks, we have with us someone special, David Cook, rather, I must say, author David Cook. Now, let me give you a brief introduction of David. David is based in Wisconsin, USA. He's an author, speaker, voice talent, podcast host, and management consultant. At the age of 15, David experienced a spinal aneurysm, leaving him paralytic and a wheelchair user. Almost in the blink of an eye, David's world went from a rising star in high school basketball to living in a rehab facilities facing a lifetime of paralysis. David chose not to be a victim, rather accepting and embracing his new reality as paralytic to face life and head on. This story has inspired people all across the world. David received his Bachelor of Business Administration in Finance from Duke University and his Bachelor of Business Administration in Finance from University of Wisconsin. David has spent nearly 25 years in education, including 17 years teaching. David served as an assistant coach in Concordia University from 2013 till 2018. His ability to overcome and to achieve success in the face of adversity is what makes his story inspiring and motivating to others. As David is here with us, we have taken a wonderful and interesting topic for discussion: facing entrepreneurship obstacles, mindset, and courage. First of all, David, welcome to our show.
Well, thank you. Thank you. That was an amazing intro. I'm honored to be here, and boy, that's some kind of guy you were talking about. I hope I get to meet him soon.
It's nice to have you in our show as well. It's an honor, rather, I must say. David, I'm going straight to the topic. My first point: entrepreneurship, a journey of obstacles. Entrepreneurship is a tough journey. It's full of obstacles. These may come in form of various ways, maybe in form of monetary issues, social barriers, personal obstacles, etc., etc. These are common to all. Not only entrepreneurs, but people face this in all walks of life. How do you see obstacles as? Over to you, David.
Well, I think you're absolutely correct. I think anyone who lives, if you live long enough, you're going to face some difficulty. You're going to face challenges. You're going to face things that are that may appear, and that's the key word, to be preventing you or keeping you from accomplishing what you want to do. I think that those moments of adversity and those moments of obstacles are really there to help us grow. And I often say that obstacles and adversity, they redirect your path. They don't change or redefine you as a person, but they may change the route that you have to take. And it's really a test of mental fortitude. I think that the biggest challenge that you face in an entrepreneurial world or anything that you're embarking upon is the mental aspect of how you have to be able to shift mentally how you deal and how you handle difficulty, because how you see something, your perspective and how you see it and what you think about it will determine how you address it and how you can see it. I often think that on the other side of adversity and on the other side of obstacles is a story. And it's a story of triumph. It's a story of overcoming, and it's a story of growth. And I think that it's necessary and part of the process of success for us to have to go through those. No, they're not pleasant. It's not. I don't raise my hand and say, "Can I please have some obstacles?" But I think that's part of the process. And I think if you understand it that way, and you see opportunity and not obstacles, because the obstacle that you see, you may not have known that it was coming. And so now you have to stop and you have to recalibrate. You've got to rethink and now come up with, how do I address this? How do I attack this? Do I need to try to go around it? Do I need to climb it? Do I need, what is the methodology? And what that is doing is giving you more tools in your toolbox as you move forward on your journey.
Wow, that's great, David. I have noted down two very interesting points which you have made. First and foremost, what you have said, that these obstacles, they redefine the path. They are not there to stop you. Rather, they are here to redefine how you are doing. Probably they want to see a better version of you. This is number one. And secondly, how you see obstacle is how you deal with it. If I see it as an obstacle or end road or it's a blind spot, probably that's how we deal it. We are in a absolutely a negative path completely. But if I see it, this is obstacles and opportunity probably, and that's how something positivity breaks out. And you have rightly pointed out that obstacles comes as a natural process. It's not that, okay, I have to raise my hands, okay, obstacle, may I have please some obstacles? That's not going to happen. That is a part and parcel of life. Probably we get obstacle, we deal with it. Our mindset really matters. It's very good pointers which we got from you, David. Now, this takes me to my second point, obstacles of entrepreneurship and mindset. Obstacles of entrepreneurship are inevitable. It will come for sure. Here, the role of the right mindset plays a very, very important role. A positive and affirmative mindset can be of great help. It is said that a right mindset solves more than half of the problems. Do you think mindset can be a real factor in handling such obstacles? Over to you.
Yeah, mindset is paramount to everything, because everything begins in the mind. Before you act on anything, before you believe it starts as a thought. And so your mind is extremely important, and your mindset is important. And that mindset really it begins with, if you understand the why for what you're about to do. What is it you're doing, and why are you doing that? And is that etched in your mind to the point where I'm going to accomplish this regardless of what I see, or regardless of what comes my way? I am determined because my mind is made up and my mind is fixed on this. You talked about something before about the importance of a positive mindset, and positivity. You can never go wrong being positive. You can never go wrong being positive. You can never go wrong thinking that it's going to work out for you, because a lot of what we manifest begins in our mind. And so if you don't think it's going to work, if you think it's going to be a problem, if you don't think there's a way for you to get it, then you're already beginning to defeat yourself, because you'll begin to see things and perhaps misinterpret them based on what you thought in your mind. And so so that mindset becomes really, really important. I know that, I've dealt with a lot of things over the last 40 years being in a wheelchair, but I have learned that if I'm going to live and be the best version of myself, I've got to find the good in everything that I do. I've got to find the good in the people I'm connected with. I've got to find the good in the relationships that I have. All of that is part of the mindset. And I have to also hear this. I have to guard my mind. I'm responsible for what I hear and what I watch and what I see. And that frames my mind in terms of focus. I think focus is the most important thing of any successful person, not their ability, because you can have ability and not be focused. And that focus starts with the mind. And it's important for you to understand that you are in charge of what you hear and see, and what you decide to take in and what you decide to leave away. I think one of the greatest challenges that people have in becoming the best version of themselves is knowing when to turn things off and knowing what not to include in your life. Because you can't take everything with you if you're going to your destiny. Destiny requires that you leave things behind and that you think a certain way. I don't know of anyone who's been successful that's had a negative mindset. I just don't know. All the people who succeed, they seem to be able to see beyond what they see. They aren't afraid of the unknown. And in fact, they embrace it, and they look for it to see, wow, well, what's next? What's the next thing that I can achieve? And that's all about mindset.
Wow, that's great. I have just taken down a few of the pointers which you have rightly mentioned. First thing is everything starts at the mind. It is always said that war is first fought inside the mind than in the battleground. So that's mind is a very, very important part of our thought process, of our body, rather of our life. And second is never anyone who is positive can never go wrong. That's fantastic, because negativity is the root cause of the people getting wrong, taking wrong actions, taking improper action, taking whatsoever thing. And third is that you have to guard your mind. That means you know when to switch off, because you cannot consume everything. You can consume good things, your mind becomes good. If you consume bad things, of course, it becomes negative. It becomes very, very, it's bad, in fact. So, guarding the mind is a very important point which you have mentioned. And last but not the least, focus, not the ability, matters. So, you can have a fantastic ability. You could be very, very talented, but if you're not focused, you are just nothing. You will lose your focus, you will lose your goals, you will never get the goals. So that's the thing. It's a very good pointers which we got from you. This takes us to the next point: how to keep a positive mindset during facing obstacles. Obstacle in business is quite depressing. It takes a toll on the business founders. It takes a psychological price on entrepreneurs. We always say to keep a mindset positive, but under such circumstances, it is very tough to do so. Could you please enlighten us how to keep a positive mindset during such situation? Any specific advice on this? Over to you.
Yeah, and I can give you on a personal level. Late in 2019, before the COVID variant hit the world, I became very ill with sepsis, and I ended up on bed rest for literally about 120 days straight, and I had to deal with not falling into depression, not falling into like, well, man, what's going on? Am I ever going to get out of this? What am I going to do? And there's a few things that I did that helped me out. One of the things that I think is important is partnerships. You don't have to make this journey by yourself. I was so grateful that I had some people that I was connected to in a deep level that I could actually talk to and say, look, I'm really struggling with this right now. I miss seeing people. I miss speaking around the world because it had all dried up, and I'm really struggling. I don't know what to do. And they began, and you know what? I just needed them to listen. and that was a big thing, because if sometimes when you feel like you're all alone and like you're by yourself and no one understands what you're going through, well, that's not true. That is not true. You may have to seek them out and find them, but that becomes so important. I talked about, we already talked about perspective, perseverance. And the third thing that I think is so important on your journey, I call it from paralysis to purpose, and that paralysis can be depression or whatever. That third thing is partnerships. I don't know anyone who's made it in this world on their own. I don't know anyone who hasn't struggled and had to reach out and ask for help. One of the things that was a challenge for me as a wheelchair user, independence means so much to me, to be able to do things by myself. But I began to understand that there's some things I'm just going to need some help with. And it was okay. It didn't make me, less of a person. I just needed some help to get that. And I think when you deal with disappointment and when you deal with failure, you have to have someone that can help you redefine that, because you're not a disappointment. You're not a failure. That thing that you just were in did not work out the way you thought. Now, here goes the mind shift we talked about before. How can you look in that situation and find something that you can build upon? That becomes the key in fighting depression. You have to find purpose in your pain. You have to find reason for your resolve. And this is what I mean. I ended up trying to figure out what to do. I was a speaker, I'm an author, didn't know what to do, didn't know if I would ever do it again. But then I began to reassess my skill set. And how could I reinvent myself? Is there something else that I can do with what I've been given? And that's when I began to think about podcasting. And I did a series on YouTube called Insights from Getting Undressed, where I interviewed people from around the country who had read my book. And it was an exercise that got me prepared for podcasting. But you know what happened in the midst of that? It was the strangest thing. I began to hear people talk about what my book meant to them, and it became therapy for me in some of my darkest times. I didn't anticipate that was going to be part of me pursuing something that I felt I needed to do because it was part of who I was. Does that make sense? And so I think that's very important. Reflect, regroup, and relaunch. Those are three things I talk about all the time in the midst of disappointment. Take a moment to reflect, regroup, and relaunch. And when you reflect, I want you to reflect on who you are and all the great things you've done. Not the things you haven't done so well. Don't focus on those. Build yourself up and know that you've done some great things. I did that when I got fired from a basketball coaching job that I didn't expect to get fired from. And I was angry and mad and didn't know what to do. I had to stop. And when I did, and I began to reflect, well, what did you accomplish? How many lives have you impacted? What difference did you make? Then I began to change all of a sudden. I started to feel better about myself. And I was like, you know what? Let me get myself back together here. Let me regroup, because there's still some gas in the tank. There's still time on the clock. There's still a chance for me to make a difference. And then I got back out there and let's go do it. And I think that is what has to happen. It's a process. Loss and grieving go together. So it's okay to grieve, but you can't stay in that place. You have to somehow, and with the help of others, don't stay in the place of disappointment longer than you're supposed to. Accept it, deal with it, grieve, and then move from that point onto your next victory. Because the fact that you made it through that depression, the fact that you made it through that difficult time, that's a win. That's not a loss. That's a win. And I think you have to really count those wins when it's hard and things don't look right, and then reassess and move on. And let's talk about just one quick thing. You know, the interruptions of life are normally trying to teach us something. Life interrupts us for a purpose. And I think we have to stop and try to get the message from what life is trying to send us in those moments where we feel like the world is caving in and that we're a failure and we haven't done well. I don't believe life is trying to teach you that. I think life is trying to teach you some lessons to build from that to become the best version of yourself.
That's amazing, David. Really amazing, I must say. I have taken some very, very important pointers, whatever you have just spoken about. Let me just, run through one by one. First thing which you have really mentioned is the partnership. This is very important. No one can climb the mountains alone. You always require a team. You always require a backup. You always require a friend to talk about. So partnership is very, very important. This is a wonderful point you have mentioned. Second, you have mentioned is that you should always find a purpose in your pain, because whenever you are in a pain, it comes with a purpose. The purpose in the pain is very, very important. The golden word which you have just said is reflect, regroup, and relaunch. Because whenever there is an interruption, it gives you a lot of time for introspection. Probably what you have done good, you can count your blessings, and then again you have reflect your life, regroup, rearrange yourself, and again go with a full swing with the life. And I'm sure this relaunch will be a success for anyone. And next is, you have just said that it's okay to grieve, but do not stay in that place. It's okay. Ups and downs are absolutely fine. At this point, I'll just come in my next, pointer, that is called valley time, peak time and a valley time, as mentioned by Spencer Johnson. So you can be there in the valley, but always work and go to the peak once again. Don't stay in the valley. So that's the thing. A wonderful statement which you have just said is, life interrupts for a purpose. Nothing happens without a purpose. So if the life is giving you some bad time, it is because of a purpose. Find that purpose, again, regroup and relaunch once again. So I must say some of the golden words we got from you. So we are going to the next point. How should one react during valley time? Now, business is a journey of peaks and valleys, as coined by Spencer Johnson. The peaks are the favorable times and the valleys are the downtimes. Downtimes must be handled in a proper way. Here, the right mindset, right determination plays an important role. What do you think on this, David?
I think that's absolutely 100% correct. I think it's really the times in the valley that determine the type of person that you are and how you respond to those. You know, it's because if you don't respond properly to valley times, you will find yourself mishandling the mountaintop. And this is what I mean. There is so much to appreciate in the process. I think sometimes we don't value the process, but I believe that there's profit in the process. There's benefit in the process. And how you respond to everything is everything. What do I mean by that? You can't necessarily control what happens to you, but you can respond how you control to that. How you can control, rather, how you respond to that. I'll say it again. You can't control what necessarily comes your way, but you are able to control how you respond to it. That's my responsibility. That's a choice. In that moment of difficulty, in that moment of discouragement, you still have a choice. You can either allow your circumstances to dictate to you, or you can dictate to your circumstances what's going to happen. And I think that that is the key to understanding those moments in the valley. But because there's a place that there is a lot of things that happen in the valley. A lot of things can't grow on top of the mountain. If you go to a mountain, you'll find there's a lot of vegetation, a lot of depth, and a lot of moisture in the valley. And it's a place to grow. And there are things you can get there that you can't get on the mountaintop. On the mountaintop, you've got nothing. Where else are you going to go? What are you going to do? When you get to the mountaintop, you've got to figure out how to stay there. You have to figure out how to stay there. But when you're in that valley, you can still look up and see that there are things for you to reach and gain along the way. And if you can see that and understand that this valley is temporary, it's temporary. It's not gonna always be that way. It's a temporary place because it's in between successes. If there's a valley, there must be two peaks on the side of the valley. And you're just in between greatness. You're in between another accomplishment. And you have to understand that that is not where you are to be planted. That is where you are to go through there to get to your next great point, your next great accomplishment. And that's what you have to really know about that valley situation. It's not going to last always. It is temporary. And one of the challenges that we have mentally is to not make temporary things permanent in our mind. Because if you see it as permanent, then you will find yourself fixated there and you'll never get out of it. And you'll be, what happened? I mean, I got in the valley, I just couldn't get out of it. Well, you were supposed to. That's not a permanent place. It's a temporary place. It is a pass through. I'm just passing through here. I'm not staying here. I'm not staying here because I can see up there, the goal is there. And now my job is to make sure I get there.
Amazing. Really amazing, David. I have again taken down a few very, very important pointers. First is, respond when you are in the valley. How you respond in the valley, that's what really matters. Because the way you respond in the valley, if you are not able to respond properly in the valley, of course, you cannot respond properly while you are on the peak. Probably you will make mistakes in the peak. So, your valley time is a great learning time. This is number one. Second is you have got two choices. Either circumstances dictate you or you dictate the circumstances. It's all the mindset. Either if you don't take care of your circumstances, circumstance is going to take care of you. So either all, you have to choose between this or that. You don't have any third option. And third thing is this, it's a very, very optimistic statement which you have made, that if you are in the valley, that means there are two peaks nearby. The valley is always clear-headed when there are two peaks. So that's very, very optimistic statement. And secondly is valley is just a phase. It's not that it's going to be a permanent thing. Nothing lives for permanent. If today we are in valley, tomorrow, of course, we will be there in the peak. So that's kind of mindset which one has to be. So this again takes me to the next point, converting valley time to the peak time. It is important for all business founders to convert valley time to the peak time, that is downtimes into opportunities. There is no magic wand for this. We all know that. An entrepreneur need to find his or her own way for this. Now, this is a challenging journey. Could you please let us know what steps one can take in this phase so that the valley time can become an opportunity time? Over to you.
Yeah. Well, I think you have to assess the surroundings of the valley. What is this valley? What kind of situation am I in? And I think that you have to start there with assessing the situation, assessing the moment. And then after you have assessed it, now you have to see, do I have the tools? Do I have the ability that I need to navigate through this by myself? Or here we go again, do I need to get some help to get out of this? It depends on how, I remember as a kid, they used to watch these movies and they always had quicksand and people would be falling into quicksand and you would have to grab onto something or grab onto somebody in order to get you out of that quicksand. And so I think that after you assess the situation, you have to assess yourself and see, what is it that I can do? And did I get myself in here some way? Sometimes we can put ourselves in some pretty tough situations, and we have to be honest with ourselves if we've done that. And if so, you can't always undo what you did because the past is the past. But you learn from that and you figured, okay, I got myself in this. What are the steps to me getting out? Now, understand this about valley time. It takes longer to get out of the valley than it does to get in the valley. And you must understand that going in as you're trying to get out and convert that time. I wish it could be quick and in a hurry all the time, but a lot of times it's not. A lot of times it's going to take some time and take some energy and take some effort to convert that. Because what you're really doing, think about this, you are now creating a recipe for a cake that you have to cook. And so you're trying to take all those ingredients of that valley and make it into something that's going to be delicious, like a cake. And that takes time, and that takes measurements and particular ingredients. And once you have found a way to include the valley into your recipe of success, I need a spoon. I need some flour. I need some sugar. Oh, I might have to borrow some. I might have to go to the store and buy some because I don't have it. I began to do that. It goes back to those 3 R's we talked about: reflect, regroup, relaunch. And you're assessing, seeing what you can do. And now, how can I make this part of my recipe for success? And I think that's really important to do in how you convert those. You must also know that your goal has not changed, nor is it diminished because of the valley experience. It's still your goal, and your purpose does not change. I tell people this all the time. My purpose in life did not become paralyzed when my legs did. It did not become paralyzed when my legs did. My purpose, my passion, the things that I was born to do did not become paralyzed because I went through a traumatic experience that caused me to become paralyzed. I still had purpose to fulfill. I still had dreams and goals to attain. I still had plans. And I think that, again, that's part of that reflection thing we talked about. You've got to remind yourself of that and say, okay, the goal is still the same. My purpose is still the same. I've got to get there. And I'm going to take it now. Here we go. One moment at a time, not even a step at a time, a moment at a time. Master each moment in the valley. And when you add them together, you will have converted your valley experience into a mountain experience. But you have to do that moment by moment by moment. And sometimes I think we try to bite off too much. We want to eat the entire cake at one time. As good as it may be, that's not going to be good for you. So a little bit at a time, and then count those wins. We go back to that, because that valley experience is necessary for you to understand the victories that you're having, because the process is never going to be fast enough. It's going to be like, oh man, this is taking too long. Well, you got to count them victories. And at the end of the day, and I believe this wholeheartedly, I believe that sometimes you just need to lay down and start over the next day, because you have exhausted all the mercies and the graces that you were given for that day. So you're now empty, and that's okay. Yeah, I can't take any more of this today. You know what? Lay down, go to bed, start again tomorrow. There's nothing wrong with hitting the restart button over and over and over again.
Really amazing. I have really taken down some very important pointers, very good pointers, I must say. First thing first, which we have rightly said, that assessing the situation and yourself, whenever you are there in the valley time, in a tough time, first assess, but why we have gone there, what kind of system is there, what are the tools available, what are the resources available. So this is really important. And second is assessing yourself. Whatever the tools we have, how can we use that tool and go to the next step? Probably if we don't have certain tools or certain resources, why can't we get it from outside? Or probably why can't we seek someone's help and mentorship to come out of the situation? Assessing situation and yourself is a very, very important pointer. You have given two very, very important example. I must say that's a perfect example. First is the quicksand. When you fall in the quicksand, what do? You have to grab something and you have to come out. You simply cannot stay and allow yourself to go down and down. That's not going to happen. So if you are in quicksand, you have to grab something and come out of it. Similarly, whenever you are there in a valley, grab whatever resources you have, seek some mentorship, seek some guidance, and just come out of it. So this is assessing yourself and the situation. Third thing is the recipe for the cake. So whatever ingredients you require to make a cake, so similarly, such kind of resources or recipes you have to recollect, you have to come out of this valley phase, this depressing phase. Third is this depressing phase, or I must say this valley phase must not diminish one's goal. Whatever your goal, whatever your focus, you must be absolutely focused on that. You should not diminish, you should not cut down your goals, you should not change your goal. Probably you can redefine, you can reassess the path, but goal has to be there and the right path has to be followed. And third is this master each moment in the valley. I think this is the most important point which you have said. Probably when the people are there, they simply start crying. Probably they get depressed, they get into drugs, they get into negative things, negative traits, but that is not how a situation is dealt. So if you are in a bad situation, master each moment, learn whatever. Probably bad times also teaches us a lot of things. So master each moment, learn from each moment, simply get out of the valley. So some very, very important pointers which we got. Now, again, this takes me to the next point. How mental toughness is important in the down phase. Mental toughness is important for the journey of entrepreneurship. Rather, I must say for every kind of journey, the mental toughness is very, very important. This helps to overcome all sorts of downtime and obstacles. Mental toughness is one thing which a business founder must have. What is your take on this, David?
Yeah, I think that the difference a lot of times between high performing individuals and those who don't is how mentally tough you are. I mean, can you take a tough time? I mean, do you fold easy? Do you break easy? I mean, if you're going to be successful, the answer has to be no, that I am mentally tough. I am mentally prepared to go through whatever I have to get there. And that mental preparation and that mental toughness may come through adversity. To be honest with you, it may come through overcoming obstacles. You don't develop mental toughness just by living, while you're just walking around. I coached basketball for over 30 years. And one of the things we did was we would challenge our guys on the court, and we would challenge them. They didn't know a lot of times how far they could actually go. They thought they had reached the limit. And as we began to do drills and different things in practice, they would find themselves growing mentally, that they were a little bit tougher than they thought. But it was a process of those drills that we ran over and over and over. So when the game came, they were ready to go, and they had already seen it in their mind, and they were mentally prepared for it. And so, you've got to really take advantage. I know this sounds crazy, but you've got to take advantage of the tough times to create mental toughness. You don't get mentally tough when things are well. That doesn't build mental toughness. Mental toughness comes when things are hard, when things are difficult, when you really don't think you're going to be able to make it, but you find a way. You find a way. And that is what separates, I really believe, the greatest from the great. You can be great, but if you want to be the greatest, there's another level of mental discipline. Because see, the word discipline, I like to call it mental discipline, because it is a discipline. You have to discipline your life. Your life is a life of discipline that builds that mental toughness, and also your mental strength. I won't even call it mental health. I'll call it mental strength. And anything that is strong has to be built. It has to be worked on. And so, exercises on mental toughness are important. But you know what? If you want to be mentally tough, you're going to have to go through some things to get there, and you can't run from them. Embrace them, and try to grow the best way you can from them. Because if you don't have a strong mental approach, life will win. Life will win. It's going to throw stuff at you. And this is so interesting to me. I believe that life puts an expectation on you based on what it throws at you. Life is not trying to destroy you. Life is trying to build you. And how you embrace and deal with that tough moment, that tough situation, really will impact your mental toughness. And from there, you never get to the point where nothing phases you, because that's a lie if you say that, because things always will bother you. Things will impact you. But if you are able to quickly let them go, that's the test of mental toughness in my mind. How quickly you can let it go. If you can't let it go, then your mental toughness is not where it needs to be. And I think that's the idea, is to figure out the mental toughness aspect. And one of the things that I have learned is most things in life I should not take personally. I had to learn that, because when you take things personally, it gets down in your soul, and that's a hard place to reach. And most things aren't intended for you to absorb personally. They're for you to learn from, grow, and let them go. And so make sure that you don't take everything so personally. Like, the world is not out to kill you, and people aren't out to get you. The world is out to make you better. The world's out to make you a better person. And that develops mental toughness.
Amazing, really amazing, I must say. Again, some very important pointers which we got from you. Number is this mental toughness really differentiate between a successful person and an unsuccessful person. We have always seen the successful person, become successful by the mental toughness, and mental toughness comes by overcoming obstacles. There is no hard and fast rule. Sitting at the home and sitting in the office, no one becomes mentally tough. One becomes mentally tough only and only by overcoming obstacles. Wonderful point. Advantage of tough time. Rather, this is a very very important pointer. One, is everyone is scared of the tough time. But okay, if I'll face a tough time, I'll not do this again. I'll not do this because it might bring me a tough time. But it is important to take it in a very very positive note and take advantage of the tough time, because every tough time or every negative situation has got a deep embedded positive seat in this. One has to take up that positive seat, and that's how we come out of it. Third thing is that you have rightly mentioned that it can be more rephrased as a mental discipline. And this mental discipline differentiate between great and the greatest. One can be great. There are so many great people, but greatest are very few of the lot. So this is one thing which differentiates between great and the greatest. And last but not the least, things not to be taken personally, because this is one thing that mistake we all do, including me. I must say I take a lot of things personally. Probably if someone's saying this is not done, probably this is not how it should be done, it is that person might be referring to the circumstances, might be referring to the process, not to the me, although I could be doing the thing. But instead of thinking it is a process, we take it ourselves. So that's the kind of paradigm I must say. This shift has to be there. So things not to be taken personally. Feedback is good and bad feedbacks will always come, but whatever it may come, let's take it in a positive way, not to be taken personally. This is some golden words which we learned from you. Now, this brings us to our last point: struggle and success. Struggle is inevitable part of business. It may lead to initial hurdles, but that paves the way for success in long run. However, struggle breaks many entrepreneurs, but one must not break in the face of adversity, instead must face it with courage. How do you see struggle and success, this combination? Over to you.
Wow. Well, I think that inherent in your success is the work of struggle. The work of struggle. The work of struggle. Think about going to a gym to get your health together, and you got to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, which is not pleasant. You got to get there. You got to start working out. It's hard right away. It's not the most fun, but over time, you create these habits. And these habits all of a sudden turn that struggle. You begin to see how that struggle starts to turn into success. You look better, you feel better, you're eating better. All of those things, they were a struggle. It was not easy. But I just don't believe that without work and without struggle that you can have success. I mean, I don't know what you would call that. I don't know anyone who's gotten to a place where they've succeeded at anything that didn't have a struggle along the way, that didn't have some difficulty along the way, that didn't have some work to put in. You have to put in the work if you're going to be successful. There's no way around that. You got to put in the work. And the work sometimes can be mundane. It can be boring. It cannot be exciting, but that's part of the work that you have to do. That's part of the struggle. That's part of the process. And I think that they are totally related, and it doesn't have to be negative. See, sometimes I think we think a struggle is a negative thing. No. You can be learning how to become the best barbecue chef in the world. And that is a process, and there's some struggles with that. You burn some meat. It didn't turn out the way you want, but you're back on the grill and you're doing it. That's part of the struggle. That's part of the process. And it's enjoyable, but you have some stuff in there that's not so enjoyable, if you understand what I'm saying. And so I think process, we talked about it before, process is so important. And I think that you just have to understand that that's part of it. You can't I said, I coached basketball for 30 years. And if we didn't practice every day, we would never be ready for the game. I don't care. We could have just gotten together and just throw the ball out and screwed around and stuff. And then when it came time to win or have a success, we would not have been prepared. And so we had to come to practice, and we practiced every day, and we would have a practice plan. Here's something that's really important. Before we would go into practice, I would get with my coaches, and we would put together for that day a practice plan. And on that practice plan, there were certain things and drills that we wanted to make sure we would get through in order for us to be prepared for the opponent a week later. And when we got done with that practice plan, we'd look and say, all right, we didn't get to this today. We have to put that on tomorrow's plan and come back to that because we need to accomplish these things. There's the process. There's the struggle. Players don't like to practice. They want to play games all the time. That's what they want to do. But as a coach, as a leader, as a business person, you know that there's training that has to go on, that there's preparation that has to go on. You got to scout the opponent. You have to know what your opponent's going to do. When is the game? Where's the game? Are we on the road? There's all these things that you have to kind of figure out as part of that process. And once you do that, then you can get to the point of success. Now, I want to say one other thing that we haven't talked about today. In all of this conversation about overcoming obstacles and being an entrepreneur and a mindset, make sure you add serving others to part of your success equation. I am a strong believer that purpose without service really isn't purpose at all. Success without service is not success. Our responsibility is to make sure that our journey and the things that we're doing are having a positive impact on the life of someone else, even if it's just one person. Make sure that we're doing that, because you know what that does? That also makes you feel better about the struggle you went through. That makes you feel better about, man, that was a hard thing, but boy, I'm so glad now because I see the difference that it had for someone else. And once you begin to live for something bigger than yourself, it puts all these things we talked about in perspective. It puts the valley in perspective. It puts the struggle in perspective. It puts partnerships and perseverance and depression. All that stuff gets a proper place because it's no longer just about me. It's about someone else. And I think we have to keep that in mind. And that will help you. I'm telling you right now, it will help you in those moments of depression and everything else, because it allows for us to take a moment and not think about my own problem. Let me put my problem on the shelf for a while and see if I can help somebody else. And you'll be amazed as how that helps you handle the struggles.
Amazing, simply amazing, David. Two important pointers. I must say these 2 pointers covers everything. First is success is a work of struggle. Without struggle, there is nothing called success, because these are, I must say, it's a 2 faces of the same coin. Your coin cannot have one face. If you are looking for success, other face has to be the struggle. So it's a one-line definition of everything, I must say. Second thing you have rightly mentioned, it's all about serving others. It's not whatever successful, how much successful we become and whatever the things we do for success, we have to make sure, absolutely we have to make sure we take out some time and serve others, even if it is one person, but that person's life should get a positive impact for whatever we are doing. So these two are, I must say, these two statements that makes a million words, I must say, million words simply. So this brings us to the end of this talk show, and David was really a phenomenon, I must say. His thoughts, his words, his examples were really amazing. David, any closing remarks would you like to put?
Yes, I will close with this, and I it's something that I really believe, and that's this: that your ability to endure is always greater than your willingness to endure. And I'll say it one more time so people really hear what I said. Your ability to endure it is greater than your willingness to endure it. What do I mean by that? none of us want to go through difficult times. None of us want to deal with hardship. But it's amazing how we have been created with this intestinal fortitude that allows for us to push forward in the midst of it. I can handle what I've been given. You can't handle what I've been given because it's not yours. But whatever you've been given, you've got the ability to endure it. Now, look, we talked about it. We're not raising our hand and saying, I'm willing to go through that. Can I go through that? We're not doing that. We're not doing that. So understand that through all this that we talked about today, that your ability to endure is always greater than your willingness to endure.
Really amazing. Really amazing. I must say, these are the golden words which we learned from you, David. Amazing. So this brings us to the end of our talk show. It was an amazing, amazing session, I must say. A lot of people will get inspiration from David, of course. And I'll give the link of David's social media. You all can follow him in his social media. Some of the amazing, tweets I keep on seeing from his end, and some of the amazing work he keep on doing to, inspire people in spite of so much struggle, in spite of so much, I must say, physical, limitation. He has really touched success. It's inspiring for all of us. Thank you so much, David, for being a part of the show. This brings us end. If you got a value from this episode, I request you to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you once again, David, for being a part of the show. And I'll be back with many episodes. Till then, stay tuned, stay connected. Have a great day. Once again, thank you, David, for being a part of the show.
Thank you. This was an honor for me to be here with you. This was really good.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.